Hi, I'm Frank Coleman, and I'm the Bureau Chief for the Secret Agent Project, and this is the final video in the series of behind the music, behind the scenes videos of how it was I came to make the debut album by Secret Agent, Declassified, on MI5 Recordings, released October 5th, 2020, or at least we hope it will be from this vantage point. And I decided that I wanted to do a brain dump of everything that was going on in my head and my process for making this music, how I made it, and what I was thinking when I was doing it to a certain extent. I don't really believe in just like letting it all hang out, removing all mystery and all doubt. I mean, the whole idea of an artistic transaction is that you, as the listener or the audience, find something of yourself that you identify with, that resonates with you. And if I solve everything for you, then that means that's that, and it can't be anything else. So I like to leave things a little open for interpretation. So this is Zurich, and coming on the heels of Madrid and Portofino, I decided I wanted to get back into actually composing stuff, actually doing a song where I actually played everything from top to bottom. So that's what this is. So not much better in the organization department as far as looking at my tracks now is concerned. I apologize. I feel like I'm apologizing for my house being messy. But, and again, I realize this is of precious little interest to anybody except, budding audio engineers and fanatic, completionists. Oh, to have some fanatic completionists for oneself. Anyway, so this is what the tracks look like on the bottom here. I know it looks a little like a psychedelic angry fruit salad. So there's at least some color coding for what different things are. The drums are all in blue here. There's Fender Rhodes in purple. There's some different synthesizers and virtual guitars. And the Vox is samples, and everything is subbed together down here. All the drums are down here. Samples come here. Now, I didn't break out the guitars and the keyboards like a sensible person. I put all the rhythm stuff here and all the lead stuff here. And then there's the bass, and then the whole rest of all this stuff is all different bunches of effects and different kinds of effects, reverbs and delays and whatnots. And all these different sounds up here utilize all those different effects to various ends during the program, and then it all gets mixed together and out it comes, and that's what you hear. The orchestration on this is fairly straight ahead. It starts off kind of spare, but by the end of it, it gets really big. The main things are the drums, there's bass, there's a couple of different basses. Fender Rhodes, which over the course of this project, I just fell more and more in love with the Fender Rhodes sound in general. Some virtual guitars, which were late additions to the whole thing, and kind of pushed it over the edge for me. Let's see, I think that's about, some synthesizers, some little synthy moogie kinds of parts. Oh, and strings at the end. It's a big string section, but acoustic piano and Fender Rhodes and guitars and drums and two different kinds of basses, electric and acoustic. Those are like the primary things. And the piano, the acoustic piano, I haven't really featured it a tremendous amount in this album. But like that always feels to me like my voice in any piece of music. Like when I'm comping stuff, acoustic piano is like the sound I'll go for when I'm trying to work out melodies or just chord progressions and stuff like that. I'll start with drums and then I'll lay down bass. Maybe either bass or I'll just go directly to piano and put bass in counterpoint afterwards when I'm just composing something from scratch. And because it was like my first instrument, I started on piano before I took up drums, so it does kind of feel like home to me, and the richness of that big round stringy sound. Because the piano is a big box with big long strings, almost like if you imagine like bass guitar strings or like guitar strings shrunken down, but really, really elongated, and then hit with these hammers. That's what piano is. It's like John Entwistle's bass sound, which I have always admired. John Entwistle from The Who, and sort of tried to emulate a little bit here. He used round wound strings. The strings themselves are actually round shape, so they have a rounder tone to them, and they sound a little like piano, like low piano strings. If you ever open up a piano and reach in and pluck the strings or strike them with a stick or something down the low end, they have this big round sound, and it's partly because of the physics of the shape of the string. So there's that. So I just always sort of identified with it. It just felt like my surrogate in this landscape here. Anyway, let's go ahead and play this from the top.
I'll get you for this.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a sample from a movie called Assignment to Kill, 1968, directed by Sheldon Reynolds, written and directed by Sheldon Reynolds, who ought to have a much bigger reputation. I'll talk a little bit more about him in a minute. But it stars Patrick O'Neill and Herbert Lom, and they have this cat and mouse thing going through the whole movie, and just like trying to act each other off the screen. And the script is so great. The script is full of all this all these like one-liners, these cat and mouse one-liners. The two of them just having a great time with it, and that's the bulk of I think actually all the samples in this song are from that film. Patrick O'Neill, Herbert Lom, John Gielgud, Joan Hackett, and Oscar Homolka. And nobody remembers this movie, and it's just I just love it. It's just really rich with dialogue. So yeah, Sheldon, who's, I have to go freaking look him up again. Sheldon Reynolds, yeah. He did not have much of a career, really. He was involved with Foreign Intrigue, which was both a TV series and a film with Robert Mitchum, and I looked it up, got a hold of it, and sampled from that as well. There's some juicy bits of dialogue. He also did a TV version of Sherlock Holmes, and I haven't been able to lay my hands on that yet. But just a few things. But he really is interesting as a writer. Killer's Carnival was another one. That was an interesting film. He seemed to orient himself towards mysteries. Did a version of The Cat and the Canary. Interesting writer. He has a knack for great dialogue. So anyway, you have this Fender Rhodes thing kick in, and then we have this upright bass sound. This is, yeah. So yeah, let's see here. So yeah, I played all these parts. The bass, it follows this track until it gets into the chorus. Yeah, and there's reverb and stuff that gets added in later as well. I always like the idea of using chords in bass and have it be really lyrical and really sonically rich like this, especially with an upright. You try to do it in a live situation, and it's really, really fraught with peril. It usually just turns into mud, which is not the fault of the bass player. It's just the verities and the the whims of the gods that govern, you know, acoustics in different rooms and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah. So this is again a takeoff on this idea about bass playing in general that I use a lot in my compositions, which goes back to this incident when I was a student at Berklee around about that time, sometime in the late 70s, early 80s, where I went down to the subway station near Berklee in Boston, Berklee Music College in Boston, and there was this cat playing bass, and he had this black dude and he had dreads, and he's a young kid, but he just had this energy, and he's playing bass, and he had a little amp, and he had a digital delay box, and he was thumb slapping and had the delay set to a dotted eighth note, so he was playing against himself, so he's basically playing a lot of chords and stuff, playing the basses like glorified guitar. You know, I mean, there's a lot of bass players that do this sort of thing at Berklee, but it just happened to be this one cat in this room, you know, the subway station, which is very cavernous, and playing with the slapback delay like that, and just creating these waves of bass. And again, he had this really round sound, so it had that piano wire kind of sound to it. It wasn't muddy at all. It had a lot of articulation. But it was rich and a little chorusy maybe as well. And it was just this astonishing sound. I wish I'd gotten his card or whatever. But, you know, never saw him again. It was just this chance encounter, but it's made this impression on me. And I've used it as a motif, you know, it's just this thing that I just love. So I use it here. Yeah, this is just in the bass department. That's a Frank thing. That's a Frankism. Is you know, the use of delays and choruses on the bass, using it almost like as a guitar, as a pseudo guitar, but not in a show-offy kind of way like some of Jaco Pastorius's stuff, that kind of thing. It's lyrical. It's melodic. I like the idea of creating space instead of filling it, and even though there's a lot going on here, it still, I think, has in the net that effect. Anyway, let's take a listen to what else is going on here. This gives the song its title. Once again, the song's title appears over the course of the song once, like Alfred Hitchcock's cameo appearance. It's kind of like, Zurich, on with the rest of the show. And that too is from Assignment to Kill. And I mean, I'm watching the movie and this clip comes up as like, yeah, okay, well, I guess that's the name of the song. And then we go into this big theme, and this is this big James Bondy kind of theme. And it's a big marching chord sequence that plays out and then modulates up a half step and back down again. So let's unpack this a little bit here. First of all, let's bring up the mixer. Let's loop this section here and start soloing a few things. So what we got going on here is this Leslie guitar. A Leslie guitar is a guitar put through what's called a Leslie cabinet, which is this huge wooden cabinet. Huge. It had this big spinning horn in it, and Hammond organ players would use it to get that big vibrato that you hear in like church organ swelling and in 60s R&B. It's the Hammond organ with a Leslie cabinet. Well, the guitarist got this idea, well, what happens if I put the guitar through it? What kind of sound would happen? It's a spinning horn inside that it creates a Doppler effect if you ever like listen to like an ambulance going like meow, right? Because the sound is traveling, it creates like this effect. Same idea, same basic principle is happening. So it's being simulated here through software, but that's what a guitar sounds like put through a Leslie cabinet, and you've got all kinds of controls under the hood here for where you want to put the mic and all kinds of stuff like that. But here you go. And it's got this business going on too. I think this is an ostinato. This is using a sound that uses what's called an arpeggiator. I just hold down the chord and it's bouncing around the individual notes that I'm playing with a preset rhythm. So the randomness, the random factor of it gives it a nice, interesting kind of edge here. Let's see, then we got piano. What's up with this? Oh yes, this is this little piano figure that comes in. And I just, listening to it, I just came to my head. What else we got here? Yeah, this is piano chords, just big triads with a tape delay put on them. If I turn it off, it's actually what's going on here is there's a couple of different delays. Down here we've got this one here is there's a couple of different reverbs. There must be a delay. Oh yeah, there's a delay on the rhythm track itself. It's like an eighth note delay, right? Just give everything this pulsing thing happening. Okay, anyway, you get the idea. Let's keep going down here.
What are you going to do now?
Well, like you said, you and I think alike. You tell me what I'm going to do now.
I mean, this is just, what can I say? How great is that? That's just such a great cat and mouse line. Here we go, there's more.
Did you ever think about how the big fortunes of the world got started?
I think about it every day, usually at breakfast.
They started their own wars. Railroad wars, oil wars. They started real wars so they could sell to both sides.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the whole record right there. I find myself here at the last song of this volume feeling like there's an awful lot more to say, and yet kind of not really wanting to say it. right now, at the point in time in history when this album is getting released, is a very, very perilous, dangerous point in time. Literally, in many ways. You know, it's just little old me doing this. But you know, it's the product of a lot of observation. And the world I find myself in. So I tried to sort of ride a line with the samples and with the dialogue here between, you know, being funny and telling the truth. It's not really so much that's the point of the album, but it's sort of like the stopper in the bathtub. You're going to go like that and start draining the tub. That's what that is.
They started their own wars. Railroad wars, oil wars. They started real wars so they could sell to both sides.
Yeah, there's a lot of effects on that track. And I just wanted to stop and just say, can we just give it up for my low tom-tom sound here for just a minute? That is actually that's actually a 22-inch bass drum, mounted bass drum, being played very, very hard with mallets, like, you know, like they used to do in the old country. That was recorded at the Bentman Space in the old Allied Bolt and Screw building in South Boston with a DAT deck, and I think I had a couple of PZM microphones, Radio Shack PZM microphones, just recording my whole kit. I sat up there one night just taking samples for a couple of hours. My big black drum set, enormous drums, and just walloping the living crap out of them. And so I have these enormous samples to press into service for moments just like this when we reveal the point of the album.
Sell to both sides.
Huge resolve up to this huge major chord. That's a real Frank thing. Yeah, the guitar. Guitar. I love guitar. I wish I could play guitar. I can't play guitar. I can hammer out a couple of thin chords with great difficulty. I got great rhythm, but it's just I can't. You know. Stuck with the keyboard, but I can make guitar sounds, man. I know how to make guitar sounds, even if I can't actually use the actual guitar. And my Venn diagram for guitar is John Ashton, Will Sargent, Geordie, and like Greg Sage from the Wipers. Those are my guitar heroes. There's others too, but like. It's like the core of my soul right there with those cats. And I'm very, very fortunate that, you know, I play with John. John is my friend. I've played with Will. Will is my friend. I've had some quality time with Geordie. I managed to spend a little bit of time with Greg Sage back in the day when the Wipers were touring. Managed to interview him once. So I try to get something resembling that. So what we got here is Yeah. So, what do we got over here? We got a whole bunch of effects. Let's see. This one here, that's a big reverb. This one here is probably small reverb. That's, yeah, it'd be a reverb. Then we got EQ and delay and an amp simulator and a compressor. And this whole thing starts with a sampler. And this is what that looks like. And if we just, like, listen to that just by itself. Let me see here. I'm down too far octave-wise. Let's see. So sort of guitar-like. If you strum it the right way. So we're starting with that. Let's see what happens when we add a compressor to that. They get a lot more articulation. Let's take a look at this amp thing. I have a feeling this is going to make a big difference. I was right. Let's drill into that and see what that looks like. Oh, let's see here now. They've got it all. Oh, gee, this and that type of microphone. That type of. Let's see, British amp with a 412 speaker. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, it's not the friendliest user interface. Let's see what's going on here. When you're trying to emulate guitar on keyboards, play open fifths and fourths. Delay helps a lot too. What else they got here? I guess. And more reverb. Yeah, so put it all together. And you get this huge orchestral ending.
Fire people.
I don't like the way you fire people. Yeah. Yeah, so that is Zurich, and that is the end of the album, the first album. I had about, I don't know, half a dozen other songs that were in various stages of development earlier this year. And then when the pandemic hit, I kind of felt like, well, this batch are ready to be mixed and to make an album out of. These other ones, it's dependencies on other people and stuff, and the world is topsy-turvy, and who knows. So, drew a line in the sand, and these 9 made the cut. And as I've indicated earlier, my pal Duncan and I are talking already about Volume 2. I have some other folks I really would love dearly to get involved, so we're talking about working virtually. You know, it's an enormous chunk of my life and an enormous chunk of my brain, and you know, just this project just kind of took over my head like the pod people for a very, very long period of time. But I do believe in shipping it, getting it out the door. And I'm trying to take my own medicine and get things done and get it out the door, and so that's what I've done here, and so this is my brain dump. This was this time, this was what happened. This is how I got here, and I don't know what comes after this, but you know, hopefully this will be of value to other people. You know, please make sure you port this to whatever the latest media is after I'm gone. for future generations. Even if you think it's boring, the generation after you might not. All right, so it's your job to keep it going, keep the flame alive. You know, just think of how cool it is when you see something that's 100 years old. You know, the feeling that you get when you hold something in your hand, that is that's a real piece of history. Well, it only gets that way with time. So and preservation, right? So time will take care of itself. Preservation's your job. So, all right, folks, I guess that's it. Over and out from Secret Agent Headquarters. The Home Office thanks you for your service. I can neither confirm nor deny. And this video will self-destruct in about 5 years unless you do something to save it. All right. Peace out.